Hello and welcome to Farm Connections. I'm your host, Dan Hoffman. On today's program, we get to know the current reigning Princess K of the Milky Way, Amy Kyllo, and learn how Midwest Dairy has planned for the future of this beloved tradition from Agricultural Affairs Manager, Theresa Reps. JoAnn Lower shares another wonderful story with us, and the University of Minnesota Extension brings us a new best practice segment, all today on Farm Connections.
Welcome to Farm Connections with your host, Dan Hoffman.
Farm Connections made possible in part by
Absolute Energy. A locally owned facility produces 125 million gallons of ethanol annually, proudly supporting local economies in Iowa and Minnesota. Absolute Energy, adding value to the neighborhood. The Agricultural Utilization Research Institute, collaborating with businesses and entrepreneurs to foster long-term economic benefit for Minnesota through value-added agricultural products. You can learn more at auri.org.
Welcome to Farm Connections. We're honored to have Amy Kyllo, Princess K of the Milky Way, with us today. Good morning, Amy.
Good morning. It's so exciting to be here and to get to talk to you today.
Well, thanks for being here. And also with her is Theresa Reps, the Agricultural Affairs Manager for Midwest Dairy. Good morning, Theresa.
Good morning, Dan. Thanks for having us.
Well, it's an honor to have you here. And of course, Princess K of the Milky Way is a long-standing tradition. Tell us a little more about how you got picked to be Princess K of the Milky Way.
Well, it all began, I was a county princess for my local county. And then last year in May, I went to an event where I got to go through some judging process and I was selected as one of the 10 finalists. And then last August, the night before the state fair, I was crowned as Princess K, and it has been an amazing journey.
Well, it's truly an honor. What makes it amazing?
Probably all the opportunities, the chances to see many different people from many different backgrounds and to really get to share about something that I really care a lot about as a dairy farmer. And so that's probably what it makes it also special, the opportunities and the chance to really be talking about something I truly care about.
Thank you, Amy. Theresa, you've been with Midwest Dairy for a while now, so you've been working with Princess K of the Milky Way. Tell us about that program and why you feel it's important.
Yeah, so I think the program has such a rich history, and I'm really excited to be a part of it. I've gotten to see it from multiple different levels. I was a county dairy princess myself, and then ran for Princess K of the Milky Way. Then the following year, I was an intern, so I got to work with the program, and then was lucky enough to be employed by Midwest Dairy and told that I get to work with the Princess K program every day. So it's been a fun journey to just watch the development of the program and to be a part of that. And it's important because we have all of these talented, passionate young women who want to tell their story and share why they love dairy. And this is an opportunity for them to do that, and then to also grow as leaders and as future leaders in dairy.
Well, I've had the luxury and opportunity of seeing carving of the butter at the Minnesota State Fair. I've been at the Mower County Dairy program or their banquet and watched the crowning at the local level, and just amazing to watch those young ladies grow over their year of reign. Any thoughts on your programming and what your objectives are?
I mean, our objectives are always to find youth that are passionate about dairy and provide them an opportunity to share their story. Minnesota's dairy farmers love this program because it gives voice to them when they don't always have the time or opportunity to voice their love for dairy. So these young women provide an outlet for that. And then it's also an opportunity just to provide leadership skills for these women to be able to learn how to communicate effectively. And you can certainly see that in the growth from even county dairy princesses, but even Amy over the last year has seen tremendous growth, and I'm sure she would tell you the same. So it's always so fun to watch the growth and development that happens throughout the year.
Well, it's certainly June being Dairy Month and the beautiful weather and beginning to see the changes that are happening in agriculture and our environment in the countryside was always a favorite time of mine and many. But one of the highlights was when the dairy princesses would be in the summer parades. Certainly well-dressed, well-groomed, congenial young ladies waving at the crowd. But then the highlight was when they would serve an ice cream cone. So that must be a little bit challenging this year not to be able to do that. Theresa, can you elaborate on, how you went through the process of making decisions on how to do things in this difficult coronavirus time period?
Yeah, Dan, and I can tell you, I certainly miss the regular ice cream treats as well. It's much easier when someone provides them versus having to purchase them for myself. But the changes to this program have not been taken lightly this year. It's a lot of behind the scenes work, and we have a great group of farmers that help us guide us when it comes to how to handle these challenges that have arisen. So we have a Princess Committee that meets regularly and has met more often now thanks to COVID-19. And we started, discussing what this year could look like way back in March when the pandemic first hit, because we had our May leadership and promotion event that we had to consider how that might look differently, given everything that has happened. So that committee works, and it's made up of Minnesota Division Board members and then county representatives, past Princess representatives, that provide a recommendation to our Minnesota Division Board. And then that board that's made up of 20 plus dairy farmers from across the state of Minnesota make the ultimate decision. So it's been a lot of discussions with the obvious goal in mind of making sure that our program still is able to connect with consumers and still provide a really wonderful experience and growth opportunity for these young ladies. So lots of great discussions, and I think we're on a great path to continue to meet the objective.
Amy, when you speak with your colleagues that have gone before you as Princess K of the Milky Way, what conversations do you have about how uniquely different this year has been?
Well, I think I know I talked to Rebecca a little bit, who's past Princess K. She's I talked about, it's sometimes in this moment, it's like I can either look at the lemons or I can make lemonade out of it. And she just encouraged me, like, yeah, that's the attitude you need to take forward and to see this as new opportunities, because indeed I never expected to be doing Zoom visits. I never expected that. But at the same time, it's been an amazing opportunity. I've gotten to do things through that I never would have done before. So I think it's been something special this year, because like via Zoom, I could share pictures and videos from my farm and things that would have been much more difficult. And if I was visiting a typical classroom, I might not be able to do some of those things. And it was special this year that it's like, hey, we're going to do some pretty special new things. We're getting to learn new avenues, and I'm kind of getting to sail uncharted territory, and that's kind of fun too, to be like, I'm the first to have gotten to do some of these things. That's special for me.
Tell us about your farm and where it's located.
So my family has had a 90 cow dairy farm, and I work on my family's dairy farm, and we have about 400 acres, and it's near Byron, Minnesota, rolling hills, a river, absolutely beautiful. Really happy to have gotten to grow up here. It's so many memories together on the farm.
Awesome. As you think about the closure of your reigning year, what kinds of advice will you give to the new queen or princess when she's crowned?
I think the biggest thing that I would really advise her, a couple things. First of all, is to realize that she was chosen for the person that she is. I'm not Rebecca, and she's not going to be me, So embrace the person you are and share your gifts. That's the first thing. And then secondly is to we always talk about sharing what you love, but really stopping and thinking about it. Why do you want to be Princess K? Why do you go out every morning and work on your farm, or whatever your participation in agriculture is? Why do you do it, and why do you love it? Because I feel like as you share those things, specifically to you, why you do all these things, those things really connect with people, because people recognize your genuineness, people recognize how excited you are, how much you care, and they're really excited and willing to listen in a way that you would never have if you weren't sharing those things.
Thank you, Amy. Very genuine answer. Appreciate that a lot. As you think about your career, has Princess K of the Milky Way helped you?
Definitely. I am looking into going to public relations in the future. And so I basically got a free internship through this program, and it's been so special. I've gotten to meet many amazing dairy professionals. I've gotten to go many places and have new experiences, whether it's handling social media or writing speeches writing articles, going to events. There's been so many things that I think have helped me grow, and I'm really blessed to have gotten this opportunity, because this isn't something that I could choose for myself. This is something that was given to me as a gift, and I'm really thankful for it.
Theresa, in addition to being starved for good nutrition, our audience is starved for connecting to traditional things and connecting with the public and connecting with people. How can they follow the Dairy Princess through the coronation events, through the butter carving and other things?
Yeah, so Princess K's Facebook page is the place to go for all your answers. So Amy will be doing a lot leading up to the coronation, but then we'll also be live broadcasting the crowning of the 67th Princess K of the Milky Way. And then for the 10 days following, we're going to have multiple live videos that'll be happening every day, showcasing each person getting their likeness sculpted in butter. So people can watch their favorite time-honored state fair tradition happening throughout the day. They'll get to see and ask questions of the princess that's there, as well as watch the sculpture come to life before their eyes.
Awesome. Amy, can you build on that just a little bit?
Well, I just want to, as she said, follow Princess K on Facebook and Instagram. I'm always looking to share things that are interesting to people, whether it's pictures about my farm or updates about what's coming up, interesting nutrition, pictures, recipes. There's just so much there, so many rich things. And follow Princess K year-round, because then you'll find out when she's going to an event perhaps that's near you, or something maybe that's happening virtually or whatever. There's so many opportunities to keep connected all year long. And so I really encourage you to go ahead and follow Princess K on your Facebook and Instagram.
Thank you, Amy. And thank you, Theresa. Great comments on how you're helping our dairy farmers and our dairy industry, which is huge in our upper Midwest region. Thanks again. Stay tuned for more on Farm Connections.
Farm Connections Best Practices, brought to you by
Hi, I'm Dave Nicolai with the University of Minnesota Extension, a crops educator, and this is today's Best Practices segment. We want to talk a little bit about some hail damage that occurred in the Sibley and the Renville County area recently. Actually, there was a 40-mile stretch from the Wilmer area down to the Winthrop area, and we have to talk about some of the things that growers should be mindful of from the standpoint of evaluating corn. One of the first steps here in evaluating hail damage in corn is to take a look at what kind of damage and plant health that we have in the field, but to wait a number of days for possible corn recovery. Typical hail adjusting methods usually require 7 to 10 days after the hail event. Today, we're not quite at 7 days, we're probably about 5 days, but we have a little bit of recovery, but it depends upon the crop stage. This year, unfortunately, we're in a situation where the corn is in the tasseling stage, from silking to tasseling, which is the most devastating in terms of hail stone loss. And three things that we should be looking for, and that is plant stand, as well as percent defoliation, and also take into account the type of damage that we would get in terms of bruising and lodging. On this particular field situation, we have a fairly good plant stand. There's a rule of thumb. Typically, if we have a V10 stage and larger, the percent of plant stand is a 1-to-1 situation in terms of loss. In other words, if, say, for example, we had an 80% loss in terms of effect in the field, then we would be at an 80% yield disadvantage. On the other hand, if we had just a 20%, we'd only looking at a 20% loss in terms of plant stand. But by far and away, the bigger concern here is defoliation. And when we get to V10 and beyond, we get up to V18, silking, and tasseling, then we're quite severe. It can range anywhere, depending upon damage, from 60 to 100%. In this particular field, we're probably at least in the area of 70 to 80% defoliation. Would equate to quite high in terms of damage, perhaps at least 80%. If we lost all of the leaves at tasseling, we'd basically be at 100% yield loss. So the evaluation will have to be determining how much percent stand loss, what's the percent defoliation, and the effect on bruising. We have lodging that's occurred in this field here behind us. So those are some situations and things to be mindful of, but it takes a good eye in terms of defoliation. It's probably the most needful in terms of making that choice. This has been Dave Nicolai with the University of Minnesota Extension, and this has been today's Best Management segment.
Everyone likes a good story, especially when it's true. This one happened when I was just a teenager, and it's the time that I discovered just how smart my dad was. It's a story called Rhubarb. I have rhubarb in my yard. I would imagine you have rhubarb in your yard too. Almost everyone does. You know, the red, sweet, juicy strawberry rhubarb makes into great pies. Well, I decided one day that I wanted to make a rhubarb pie. So I went out by the side of my house. I picked a bunch of rhubarb stalks, brought them into the kitchen. And as I was washing them, I remembered my first date. Do you remember your first date? I was a high school freshman, and Dexter Dewberry asked me to the dance. Oh my goodness. You know, when you're a high school freshman girl and a guy asks you out on your very first date, you have to tell somebody just as quick as you can. So I ran down the hall, past the gym, past the school lunchroom, and around the corner, almost literally, I ran into my best friend, Ruby Retland. Ruby, guess what? You're never gonna believe it. Dexter Dewberry asked me to the dance. Ruby just looked at me and said, well, JoAnn, Dexter asked me to the dance too. But I am going with the football captain. Well, I guess she didn't want to go with Dexter, but he had asked me, and you know, that was going to make me look popular. Oh, I rode the school bus home that night, and I kind of floated down those 3 school bus steps, ran all the way up the driveway, up the sidewalk, into the house. Mom and Dad, guess what? You're never going to believe this. Dexter Dewberry asked me to the dance. Oh, my mom was excited. She was almost as excited as I was, but you see, she thought I was never ever going to have a date. So she told me that the very next day we would go to Forest City and buy me a brand new dress for the dance. My dad, on the other hand, wasn't nearly as excited as the two of us. He said, JoAnn, are you sure you want to go with Dexter Dewberry to the dance? I mean, his dad isn't even a farmer. If you could go with anybody you wanted, who would it be? Oh, gee, Dad, I'd want to go with David Adams. Oh, David is so nice. He sits beside me in algebra class, and he helps me with all those problems I can never get, you know, the written ones. But David didn't ask me, Dad. Dexter did. Aren't you proud of me? Your daughter, JoAnn Ostrander, is going to the dance. Oh, it took a long time for that Friday night to come, but finally it did. And I came down from my bedroom, those steps making me feel like I was just a bit of a Norwegian princess, you know. I twirled into the kitchen in my brand new black cotton spaghetti strap sundress. Of course, underneath, my mom made me wear a long sleeve white shirt that came all the way up to my chin. You know, nice little Norwegian Lutheran girls aren't supposed to wear just spaghetti straps. Mom and Dad said I looked really nice, though. I was just about to step out the door and wait for the car to drive up when Dad said, "JoAnn, I've been thinking, would you do me a favor? Would you go out and pick us some rhubarb before you go? And while you're gone, your mom can make us one of her rhubarb pies." Dad, I'm wearing my brand new dress. Of course, what could I say? I couldn't say no to him because he was the one who had given me permission to go to the dance in the first place. You see, nice little Norwegian Lutheran girls weren't supposed to dance either. So, well, we had 2 patches of rhubarb on our farm. If you went out past the house, almost to the little house out back, we had some of that green rhubarb. Do you know green rhubarb? I mean, it almost makes you pucker just saying the word. But if you went down past the barn, almost all the way to the pasture, tucked underneath the fence there so the cows couldn't get it, we had some of that red, sweet, juicy strawberry rhubarb that my mom made into great pies. Well, if you were 15 years old and in a really big hurry, which rhubarb would you pick? You bet. I just stepped outside the house, almost to the little house out back. I went and I picked some of that green rhubarb. I pinched the leaves off the top, threw them over to the chickens, just like Mom had taught me, and brought the stalks into the kitchen. Bye, Dad. I was out of the house, kind of smoothing the skirt of my brand new sundress. There was our black lab German Shepherd, Laddie, waiting for me, my best friend. Laddie and I walked down the sidewalk until we got to the gate, and then the car drove up. Oh my goodness. I could not believe who I saw behind the wheel. There, driving that car, was David Adams. Oh my goodness. On the seat right beside him sat Dexter Dewberry. I guess Dexter had flunked his driver's test, and so David was escorting us to the dance. Well, what's a nice little Norwegian Lutheran girl to do? I just slid into the seat there between the 2 of them, and we drove 4 miles north to the Thompson gym in that wonderful dance. Oh, the gym was beautiful, and I had never had so much fun in my whole life before. I don't know what happened to Dexter. I danced all night with David Adams. Till midnight, of course, time to go home. And then as we went out to the car and David got behind the wheel again, Dexter got into the backseat and he motioned for me to get into the backseat with him. I didn't want to sit there. I didn't want to sit there, but I supposed I owed him that. I mean, he had asked me to the dance after all. Oh dear. Those 4 miles between the Thompson gym and our farm, the longest I ever rode. And it was in that back seat on that Friday night that I learned how Dexter got his nickname, Ambidextrous Dexter. The car stopped finally. I threw open the door, up the sidewalk, into the house. It was midnight, and there sat my dad at the kitchen table, still drinking coffee. What was he doing? He had to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning to milk the cows. Here he was sitting, waiting for me. He looked at me and said, "Well, JoAnn, looks like you could use a piece of rhubarb pie. Why don't you pour yourself a tall, cold glass of milk? I already have my coffee. Let's try some of this. Oh dear, it was so sour. It was so sour. And finally, I looked at Dad and we both started laughing. And he said, "Oh, JoAnn, I just need to tell you a little something about men. You see, men are just a little bit like rhubarb. Can you see now that it's not a very good idea to pick that very first one? But maybe if you go a little bit further, take your time, maybe then you'll find the real sweet one. It's called rhubarb."
Every day is a new chance to learn and grow. Making lemonade out of lemons is as tried and true an expression today as it ever was. When opportunity, in whatever form, presents itself, be sure to give it a good look. You might be surprised by what you find. I'm Dan Hoffman. Thanks for watching Farm Connections.